Arizona, as we know, has a very dismal history of per pupil funding, especially within the past 10 to 15 years. Our state used to fund education at the average national level per child. Prior to the recession, and especially after the recession, those numbers have dropped dramatically, and we traditionally are in the very lowest rung of the rung in per pupil funding numbers. There's a new study that's come out from the National Education Association, which unfortunately the mainstream media did not report, that Arizona for the second year in a row is the lowest in the country. We are 51st in the United States, and the reason it's 51st is that they include the District of Columbia as one of the states. So this is not a good marker for the state of Arizona. When we look at why our state is having trouble recruiting good businesses to Arizona with good jobs that pay well, I think this is one of the primary reasons. When we look at why teachers in Arizona are leaving the profession in droves or leaving the state in droves, and we have such high turnover in our schools, I think this is the reason. When we look at why our communities are having to shutter schools, in Tucson alone, we've shuttered almost 20 schools since the dramatic state budget cuts occurred. Now you might think, well, you know, this can be reversed, and it can be reversed, but at the state legislative level, they don't think this is a problem. Many of our state leaders don't think that money matters, which is a ridiculous argument. In any other realm, money matters. And what we see in Arizona is that our students don't fare as well. They don't do as well on the assessments where they're compared to students from other states. And that's a direct result of the lack of investment in our children. And this is not a state, average citizen. It is their priority to properly fund education, and yet their desire to have our state properly fund education is completely out of whack with what these new NEA figures show.
Well,
Dave?
I am so infuriated when people say money doesn't matter. And let me use an analogy of feeding kids. If you've got plenty of money to feed your kids, maybe a little bit of more money won't make it more nutritious. Maybe it'll make it more fun to eat. But if you're down at starvation level, if you're down where there's not enough food to put on the table, another $5, $10, $15, $20 a week is going to make a lot of difference in your child's nutrition. Well, excuse me, Arizona is at a starvation level in terms of its education funding. We're using old textbooks. We're not paying our teachers as much as they should. As you say, we can't attract the best people, and we can't give the kids the enrichment that they need. We need to bring it up to a level that is adequate. After that, let's argue if we need more, but we need to get to an adequate level.
And there is not even any consensus at the legislature that we are not at adequate levels right now, which just seems ridiculous. And let me read some figures just to give you some perspective of where we stand. So this study found that we are now at about $7,000 per student funding in the state of Arizona. And this is not just with state funding, but this rolls in other funds as well that are available to our schools. 33 states spend more than $10,000. Okay, so they're already outdoing us by $3,000 per student. The national average is $11,300. Now, who does the best job of providing for their children? Vermont, with $26,000 a student, almost $20,000 more per student than Arizona is willing to invest.
Well, I remember you were working on a 1-cent sales tax that went to the voters and didn't pass, but it would have meant $1,000 more per student, which sounds like a lot of money, but I think that might move us from 51st to 49th or something like that.
Right. It was really not an entire solution, but it would have at least taken us out of these bottom barrel numbers that we've been stuck in for some time now.
And that shows how low we were, really, that $1,000 barely even bumps us. So.
No, but I'm just afraid that this budget session we're seeing no solution offered.
I don't think so.
I haven't heard any good solutions from the gubernatorial candidates, and I don't know what it's going to take at this point to get us out of these basement level numbers.
Well, if we're right that there's an attempt to dismantle public education, not having enough funding isn't a bug, it's a feature.
What a better way to do it.